Welcome. Welcome to the 9th Annual Atlantic Council Global Citizen Awards. My, how time flies. On behalf of our board chairman, General Jim Jones, our International Advisory Board Chairman, Dave McCormick, and the board, International Advisory Board, and the staff of the Atlantic Council, welcome. The Atlantic Council emerged nearly 60 years ago to defend and advance the rules-based international order that far-sighted U.S. leaders, many of them among the founders of the Atlantic Council, established working alongside allies and built in the wake of World War II. That mission continues to drive us today when it's by no means clear that the order, the values, or the principles that we've spent 70 years creating, defending, and advancing will be enduring into the future. We launched these awards in 2010 alongside the United Nations General Assembly with a triple purpose. First, we wanted to identify individuals who represent the sort of leadership and engagement we thought defined global citizenship at its best. Second, we hoped that by recognizing these individuals, we could inspire a host of others. And finally, we wanted to underscore a pretty dramatic shift at the Atlantic Council, our own expanded global mission of galvanizing more effective efforts among friends and allies, certainly at our transatlantic core, but also globally, to secure the future at a time when we had anticipated would be a moment or an era of historic challenge. So first of all, I could not be more delighted tonight that our inaugural awardee is with us again, an inspiration for global citizens around the world. He set the standard for other honorees would follow. Professor Klaus Schwab of the World Economic Forum, please stand so we can salute you. The recipient of the 2011 Global Citizen Award is here as well, the Managing Director of the International Monetary Fund. What a remarkable global public servant. Christine Lagarde, could you stand so we can salute you? I'm also delighted that the recipient of the 2015 Global Citizen Award is here tonight as well, underscoring our frequent choice of musicians and artists who very often are the most inspiring of all the global citizens. Maestro Yu Long, Artistic Director of the China Philharmonic. Where are you, Maestro? In 2011, we provided our award posthumously, first time we had done so, to the late Lebanese Prime Minister Rafi Hariri, one of the most inspiring leaders the Middle East has known. It is a profound pleasure to see his eldest son, Baha Hariri, an International Advisory Board member, here tonight with his wife, Hasna. Baha founded our Rafi Hariri Center for the Middle East to honor and build upon his father's legacy. Baha, if you could stand so we can salute you. Baha, you and Hasna also honor us in different fashion this evening. You are celebrating your wedding anniversary with us, and I thought I'd invite a few friends over. Congratulations to both of you. Among just this sampling of our past awardees, we have a German professor who from his Swiss headquarters built one of the most extraordinary communities of global actors the world has ever known. A French lawyer and politician who continues to contribute significantly to global prosperity and peace behind the scenes at moments that are enormously challenging. A Chinese musician who has inspired and moved tens of millions with his music, and a Lebanese leader prematurely taken from us by assassins, who dreamed of and worked courageously toward a more tolerant, modern Middle East that could unlock the potential of its citizens. And oh yes, there is also an American Marine in the audience tonight, born in France, who was the recipient of our 2007 Distinguished Leadership Award. General Jim Jones, if you could stand as well, please. Just back from Romania, where his brainchild, a north-south corridor economic project, re-envisioning how Central and Eastern Europe can cooperate from north to south and not just from east to west, turned into the 3Cs Summit in Bucharest. We're very delighted that he was there. Also, we have Deputy Prime Minister Anna Birchall here tonight, who was so instrumental in achieving that success of this summit, which grew out of a project of the Atlantic Council. And that's what we're all about. And I want to salute also my Executive Vice President, Damon Wilson, but we really carried things. As you can see, he's very popular. Madam Deputy Prime Minister, where are you? And could you rise too so we can salute you? What we try to do is take words and ideas to action, and that is what we did there. So I cannot report to you all tonight, more than 500 guests from some 50 countries, that we've achieved our purpose of improving the state of the world through these awards or through our daily work. I'm convinced our contributions have been significant, but we're also concerned. On the eve of the 73rd United Nations General Assembly, opening tomorrow morning, I've seldom seen or sensed such uncertainty ahead of one of those meetings. The danger of major power confrontation has returned, number one. New doubts have arisen facing the future of democracy, number two. The global system of rules and institutions established after World War II is in doubt, three. And it does remain uncertain what role the United States will play on the global stage going forward. All these challenges arise against the backdrop of an unprecedented period of technological change, what Professor Schwab has called the Fourth Industrial Revolution. We at the Atlantic Council don't see any of these factors as reason for despair, but rather as a call to action. And so this is not just a dinner, this is not just a chance for us to raise some resources to support our work or for you to be with friends and partners. It is also a rallying moment for our community. For nearly 60 years, we have pursued the mission bestowed on us by our founders, to galvanize constructive U.S. leadership alongside global friends and allies to secure the future. This mandate underpins all our efforts across our 12 programs and centers, driving purposeful, results-oriented work that we do across the Atlantic Council. One case study of this approach is out today, and you can find it on our website. The newest report released by our Digital Forensic Research Lab called Breaking Gouda, which details irrefutable open source evidence of continued crimes against the Syrian people by Bashar al-Assad and his partners. The report depicts ground truth from the siege of a suburb outside Damascus last April, which marked a shocking turning point in the 7-year conflict. I cite this because this body of work by the Atlantic Council's Digital Forensic Research Lab doesn't just observe a tragedy. It doesn't just write papers that might gather dust or even digital dust on a shelf. It helps build a standard of evidence for use by the international community from New York to The Hague. It's against this backdrop of world events that we come together tonight to pause and recognize 4 individuals who we believe embody the essential leadership our world requires. In that spirit, we honor entrepreneur and humanitarian Hamdi Ulukaya for his inspirational achievements as a business leader and philanthropist. We honor the late Senator John S. McCain, a freedom fighter and defender of democracy. We are grateful that his wife Cindy has joined us tonight to accept our recognition. We honor, as soon as he arrives here from President Trump's reception, the President of the Argentine Republic, Mauricio Macri, for his tireless and uncompromising dedication to his country and people through his commitment to economic reform and revitalization and renewal of relations with international partners, exemplified by Argentina's current presidency of the G20. His leadership is absolutely crucial at this moment. And we honor Prime Minister of Norway, Erna Solberg, for her exemplary contributions to her nation and the global community, demonstrated through her dedication to ocean conservation and sustainable environmental policies, as well as improved quality and access to education around the world. Each awardee this evening embodies the leadership, commitment, and character that these challenging times demand. Let me quote the late Senator John McCain: "Glory belongs to the act of being constant to something greater than yourself, to a cause, to your principles, to the people on whom you rely, and who rely on you in return." End quote. So thank you all for joining us this evening. Without your engagement and support, our work quite literally would not be possible. As always, let me particularly salute my dear friend Victor Chu, brilliant global business leader, Atlantic Council International Advisory Board, founder of this awards dinner, whose vision and drive made these awards a reality. Victor, please. Thank you, Victor. With that, please turn your attention to the screens to move us into tonight's dinner program.
The silence is quiet, and it feels like it's getting hard to breathe. And I know you feel like dying, but I promise we'll take the world to its feet. Bring it to his feet. Move mountains. And I'll rise up, I'll rise like the day. I'll but that we have each other. And we will rise, we will rise, we will rise. Oh, we'll rise.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage former U.S. Ambassador to the United Nations, the Honorable Samantha Power.
Good evening, everybody. It's a great pleasure to be back in New York City and to be here on behalf of such an incredibly important cause. Before I introduce our honored award recipient tonight, Hamdi, I would like to take just a moment to say a word about the McCains. The last time I spoke with Senator John McCain, I was U.S. Ambassador to the United Nations, and he was yelling at me. I had telephoned him to urge him to support a colleague of mine for Senate confirmation. By the end of our call, which became only about Syria, Senator McCain was telling me not only that he would not support my friend, but that I myself should resign. What struck me so profoundly that day, which I remember unsurprisingly like it was yesterday, as he rattled off the names of vulnerable towns that he had visited in Syria. What struck me was that there was no staff on the call to impress with his convictions, no public gallery. There was just a man, an American senator, an American patriot who cared so much that he was not going to miss an opportunity to make the case for US leadership as he saw it. He was an American original, one we will not see again. Now tonight we could be honoring Cindy McCain in her own right for her work on protecting runaway and homeless youth, or her tireless efforts to combat the scourge of human trafficking. But during a year that must have been brutal for Cindy, she has used her own pitch-perfect voice to amplify Senator McCain's ideals: honor and integrity, a commitment to democratic values, partnership across the aisle and around the world. These have been dark days, and our democracy has lost a giant. But it is a great comfort to know that Cindy will bring her formidable gifts to the McCain Institute and to the ongoing fight for human dignity here and around the world. Thank you for all that you do, Cindy, and all that you will do. Now, to Hamdi Ulukaya, recipient of the Global Citizen Award. Many of you may know Hamdi from Chobani yogurt, a yogurt that the first time we taste it makes us feel transported to some Aegean island, which is an especially welcome destination during UN General Assembly High-Level Week here in New York City. But the most important thing to know about Hamdi is not that he makes special yogurt. It is that he is an extremely special person who has never assumed that big challenges are someone else's problem. As he puts it very simply, quote, "A company should behave in a way that solves some of the problems that society is dealing with," end quote. If it were so simple. The world is experiencing the worst refugee crisis since World War II, we know. 68.5 million people displaced, 25 million of them refugees who have crossed borders, including 13 million children. In the past year, only about 100,000 refugees have been resettled worldwide. The rest live in limbo. That's 25 million refugees, among whom 13 million are children, 100,000 resettled. Now, even if governments were stepping up to do the right thing, which many, including the US government, are not, the crisis is too big for governments. Even if we could leave our tribal, polarized corners to remember where we and our parents, our grandparents, our great-grandparents came from, even if our politicians remembered the golden rule, the same golden rule we teach our kids, what governments can do would still not be enough. After a childhood raising goats and sheep in the mountains of Turkey, Hamdi was studying political science in Ankara and advocating for Kurdish rights when the Turkish government called him in for questioning. Concerned, understandably, that he was at risk, Hamdi bought a plane ticket to New York City in 1994 at the age of 22. Speaking hardly any English, he took classes, moved upstate, and started a small cheese business. Then, in 2007, he started Chobani, and in 5 years, he grew his company from 5 people to more than 2,000 employees, making a company that no one had ever heard of into the top-selling yogurt brand in America with more than $1 billion in sales. From early on, yeah, that's kind of cool. But that wasn't all he did. From early on, he began inquiring with local community groups as to whether he could hire refugees in his plants. When he was warned that this would present many language and cultural barriers, Hamdi was not deterred. Again, he said simply, quote, "Well, these are easy to fix. We can provide transportation. We can bring translators. And Chobani is a place where everyone is welcome. Look at me. I'm from a different part of the world. It's going to be okay," end quote. He hired hundreds upon hundreds of newcomers, paying them fair living wages and celebrating Chobani's diversity not as some humanitarian act, but as a core source of its success. Drop by one of Chobani's plants today and you will hear dozens of languages spoken on the factory floor. Refugees now serve at all levels of the business. For people trying to survive and adapt in a new country with limited job opportunities, steep language barriers, and a pile of bills to pay, these are more than jobs, they are lifelines. As one Burmese refugee, a case packer at the plant in New York, said recently, quote, "We're living the American dream. It's surreal," end quote. A refugee who escaped horrific violence in the Middle East and who now manages production at Chobani's Idaho plant had this to say, "Everyday life comes more easy and becomes more beautiful. Today we are smiling and it's all because of Chobani." Every CEO here and beyond here who talks about social impact, every business that depends on stability in the interconnected global economy, every one of us, whether we're in business or not, who are blessed by opportunity and who believes in giving back, can find a way to chip in. That's what Hamdi has taught us all. He is trying to make that easier. He is now enlisting other companies. He is standing strong against a xenophobic backlash, refusing to be cowed by smear tactics and falsehoods. In doing so, he is showing that pluralism is a strength, that giving opportunity to hardworking people, the kinds of people who are so determined that they have gone through hell to get here, that is never charity. One company employing refugees is, of course, not a panacea for the global refugee crisis. But Hamdi has shown that just because we can't solve the world's problems, or the whole problems, doesn't mean we can't do something to help. I'd like to close with 2 short quotes. The first I heard from Hamdi. The poet Rumi, who lived in Turkey, once said, quote, "When you start walking the way appears," end quote. Hamdi, you are walking the way, and you are bringing so many others along with you on that path. The second is a quote not from a poet, but from a middle-aged man who I saw hoisting a sign at one of the women's marches not that long ago, about a year ago. The sign read simply, "Not usually a sign guy, but geesh." Not usually a sign guy, but geez. So, influenced by Hamdi and my sign guy, it seems the right time to ask, what are each of us normally not, that this refugee crisis and the surge in hostility toward immigrants and refugees requires us to be? It is my pleasure to invite Hamdi Ulukaya to the stage to receive his so richly deserved 2018 Global Citizens Award.
Well, Madam Secretary, thank you so much. I'm very honored with your kind words, and I'm also very honored to receive this award on behalf of every man and woman at Chobani and at Tent, because nothing is done alone. We all know that. So I owe this to all my brothers and sisters that I work with every single day. I got to know Secretary Powell a few years ago when I had this idea of bringing business community into this most urgent human crisis that we are facing today, the refugee crisis. And Samantha Power and President Obama has started this business partnership, and she took knowledge that we are also started something like this, and she liked what we've been doing, and they turned over their program into us, and they said, I guess you guys could do a better job than we do, so here you go. And that was the thing that it was real at the time. It doesn't matter who does it, who gets the credit, as long as the job is done. Few years later, a few months later, I was interviewing for a 10th president, and I guess I interviewed her deputy secretary, and during that time I was just talking to a few others, and she called me, and she said, she's very direct, and she said, if you don't hire Gideon Maltz, you're an idiot, who's my deputy secretary. So, of course, ladies and gentlemen, my president at the tent is Gideon Maltz right now. And he's doing an amazing job. I was just coming from the event. Not only her influence on me and what we do and what we learn from you, Madam Secretary, but we're lucky to know you. We're lucky that you're here. We are lucky that you are here at this time when we are going through the most critical human rights abuses and refugee crisis, but you are most passionate, and you told us all about it. And we hope to see you in any level, and your passion, your leadership still comes through, because I personally learned a lot from you, and your friendship meant a lot to me, and thank you for that. I'll be very quick. Atlantic Council, you honored me. Thank you so much. Being in this amazing place with most beautiful people, you sometimes forget that you're a yogurt maker, but there's a special honor for me to see my name next to John McCain. It really is. One of my friends here knew him, and I did tell her that if you could just give me 5 minutes with him, because I just wanted to shake his hand. And this is a true story, about a year ago. Not because of what his political view was, just being that real American. That human spirits just cuts through everything, that you're miles and miles away from a TV news or anywhere that you see him, that his humanity, this real American personality comes out, and struck me so much that I always wanted to meet him. But seeing my name next to his is a great honor. And of course, along with President of Argentina and Norway. But McCain would say that we have a long way to go. There's nothing to celebrate here. Not when 20 million people are displaced and from their home and went to some other places. Not 60 million people are displaced within their own country. Not when the kids are dying on the way, on the water, on the land. When millions of people are stuck and they pushed away, labeled in such an unfair way. There's nothing to celebrate. I've been into so many places, but one particular place I've been to, I'm just going to give you one picture, what I saw there, one simple human picture. I was in Greece when people were crossing through the Aegean Sea to this island, and it was an evening time. It was almost sunset. And we went to places where there's a tent, temporary tents. When these families, when they arrive, they can have a cup of soup and a tent and where they can sleep. It's pretty horrible, the picture, of course. But when I get there, we went to one particular tent, and the father greeted us, and I asked him what was his name. He said his name was Father of Velat. He said it in Kurdish. I could understand Kurdish. And I said, wow, that's an interesting name. He said, yes, Velat was my son. He was 10 years old, and we lost him along the way. So going forward, everyone is going to call me Father of Velat. I will not be called anything else for his memory. And as I walk into the tent, there's just cardboard in the floor. And as they are generous, they don't have much. One of his daughter, 10 or 11, maybe 13 years old, blonde hair, faces, you can tell, is exposed to sun and a lot of troubles. With this most beautiful smile, she gave me a cup of tea. And it was the most sweetest tea I've ever had in my life. Of course, I look at her eyes, and she's telling me something. But what is it that she's telling me? Dark, flat, in cardboard. She's telling me, tell me I'm going to be okay. I do not know what's going to happen from this moment on. I just arrived here from that sea where the sun is setting right now. Lost a brother. I know my father is going through right now. He's probably blaming himself. And we don't know, we just got here, we don't know where we're going to go from here. Tell me I'm going to be okay. I could not tell her that she was going to be okay. What I could come up with is I had some cash in my pocket. So I said maybe I could give her some cash for the pocket for a few things, which it's in our culture. She refused to take it. I begged, she didn't take it. I asked, she couldn't take it. This is a girl, has nothing. And that $500 could change her life for maybe a few days, a few weeks. Maybe the family needs it. But I'm struck by this dignity and honor that I'm not a beggar. I am not looking at you so you can give me $300 or $500. Tell me I'm going to be okay. That's one picture that I left that I will never ever forget. That I will get my inspiration not only from her, but the resilience of millions of the people that on the road, on the way, or stuck in the refugee camps, or in the cities, going through all these places. And when I look at the resources that we have, power that we have, knowledge that we have, intelligence that we have, I'm looking at all of this, and I'm trying to make a connection between this and that. It's difficult. So I said maybe on the refugee side, businesses can do something. Maybe the voice is not translating through the politicians or the policymakers or UN. Maybe it's not working. Maybe people like us can do something. And I'm honored to say we have about 110 large companies publicly announced, and we just came from one today, 20 of them publicly announced what they're going to do for the population refugees. And it started in 2016 in Davos with 6 companies. Today we have 110. It's good. It's not enough. I'm telling you, it's not enough. It's so urgent, it's so big. And if we don't start doing something about it, this is going to come and hunt us. Not only us, it's going to hunt our children. It doesn't matter how far we are, oceans away, or the walls, or no matter. Because we're going to walk with shame, we're going to walk with guilt that we could do something about it, and we choose to avoid it. We truly could do something about it today and tomorrow, and it was yesterday too, but we choose to avoid it. And we let these people to suffer, just like we did in World War II, after World War II. And we cannot translate this to our children. So until then, I will get my inspiration from all these amazing people that are doing the work every single day in the refugee camps, when they come from the water, when they register them, when they answer their questions every single day. I will get inspiration from them. I will get inspiration from the refugees themselves. I will get my inspirations from John McCain and Samantha Power and the people that we have all over the world, that they're really, really real and passionately putting their solution into the places. But one day I'm gonna lock myself into another picture, that I see the same exact girl looking at me, at this heavenly smile in his face, and says, "Thank you," with his eyes. And I say, of course, my sister, looking at her eyes. That's the picture I'm locking myself at. And until we get all these people in safety, all the children to become children and play and be silly, and all the women are safe in this big universe, big resources that we have nothing to celebrate but work for that picture. So for that, I want to thank you, and I want to thank you for behalf of that little girl, thinking that we will make this world better for her and all the other children. Thank you so much.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage Atlantic Council Interim Chairman, General James Jones.
A very good evening to each and every one of you tonight, and thank you so much for being here, and a special welcome to our distinguished honorees. It's such an honor to have you with us this evening. Tonight, ladies and gentlemen, I have the great honor and privilege of introducing someone very special to our national and international community, and to me personally, Mrs. Cindy McCain, who will accept the Atlantic Council's Global Citizen Award on behalf of our fourth honoree of the evening, Senator John McCain. In the wake of his recent passing, thousands of well-deserved tributes have been paid to Senator McCain, who I think we all know and maintain that is an authentic American hero. And the world knew him as a great patriot, a statesman, and a leader. And I'm very fortunate that I had the privilege of calling him my friend and my mentor. I admired John McCain before I ever knew him. In 1967, I was an infantry Marine officer in the Republic of Vietnam when he was in prison in Hanoi. I feared for him and all of our POWs, but especially for him as the son of the admiral who was prosecuting the war from his headquarters in Hawaii. But our meeting and our friendship dates back to 1979, when I, as a Marine Major assigned to the Navy Marine Corps Senate Liaison, first met then Navy Captain John McCain and his wife-to-be, Cindy. John McCain, as some of you know, had a wicked sense of humor. And as the only Marine in his office, I was frequently the recipient of humorous stories. One of them was that in front of me, he used to say to whoever was around that when he graduated from the Naval Academy, he wanted to be a Marine, but was disqualified because at the time of his birth, his parents were married. Cindy knows that that joke went on for years and years, and I stood by and accepted that until the day that his son joined the Marine Corps. And that was the last I ever heard that joke. After his retirement in 1980 from active duty as my captain, and over the course of my entire professional career, I learned a great deal from John. Perhaps one of the most important things he taught me, however, and no doubt to countless other people, were his core values. Those basic yet fundamental virtues such as human dignity, justice, solidarity, equality, and tolerance that informed his life's work and defined his character, which is his most profound legacy. And let's not forget his capacity to forgive those who tortured him in Hanoi, and the higher goal of normalizing the bilateral relations of our two countries for the future. John McCain's principled leadership was admired and respected not just in Washington, but across the United States and around the world. He exemplified the brand of democratic, rules-based leadership that America seeks to project and inspire globally, and particularly in developing countries where Cindy has done so much herself. As one of the great visionaries who helped establish the alliances and the institutions that promote global peace, prosperity, and freedom following the end of the Cold War, John McCain understood deeply the perils confronting the United States and our allies, and the urgent necessity behind U.S. global leadership, a necessity that is particularly evident today. His steadfast commitment to preserving these democratic values, which he feared are now at greater risk than ever, made him one of the staunchest advocates of the Atlantic Council's founding purpose and mission of working together to secure the future. He was indeed our global ambassador, and more importantly, he was our collective friend and inspiration. In accepting the Atlantic Council's 2011 Freedom Award in Wrocław, Poland, Senator McCain powerfully reinforced a core component of our mission. And he said, and I quote, "It is our obligation as free people to look beyond these divisions, to disregard all of the arguments that counsel passivity in the fight for human dignity, and to reaffirm that core idea that still unites us all and summons us all to still nobler endeavors, solidarity. Solidarity with the universal longings of the human soul for basic rights and equality, for liberty under the law, and for tolerance and opportunity, unquote. So in honoring John McCain with our Global Citizen Award tonight, we hope to pay tribute to his enduring legacy, which will continue to guide us in our pursuit for a more peaceful and more secure future. And beyond that, we wish to honor his unparalleled brand of leadership that will continue to inspire us all to be better versions of ourselves. So now it's my honor to welcome to the stage Senator McCain's life partner, his better half, and his advisor and confidant and the love of his life, Cindy McCain. Cindy McCain is a national and international hero in her own right. From her founding of the American Voluntary Medical Team in 1988, to lead medical missions to developing and war-torn nations, to her advocacy surrounding human rights abuses and trafficking cases, Cindy, like her husband, has dedicated her life to causes larger than herself. Cindy, thank you for being here with us to accept this award. We hope that it conveys our admiration and love for John's life's work, and yours as well, devoted to the cause of peace and the betterment of the human condition on our planet. Both of your examples will guide us towards that better future. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for that warm welcome, and thank you for this humbling honor that you have bestowed on my husband. Jim is right. I've known Jim since he was a major in the Marine Corps, and what he didn't tell you is that our son, Jimmy, who did join the Marine Corps, did it because of Jim. He looked up to him in so many ways and became a young man that is still serving his country today. Ambassador Powell, I've heard that story. You've told me that story before, and I love you for it. It's a most humbling story for all of us, and I have witnessed many, many occasions like that, unfortunately, on my husband's part. He loved the country and loved the world so much and wanted it right, and you and I both know it was something that was very special, and I know it, at the time it may not have sounded like it, but I know it was. Anyway, thank you so much. Thank you for recognizing my husband's statesmanship and his contributions to the progress of peace, prosperity, and freedom in the world. He would have been grateful and humbled by your appreciation. John believed American citizenship conferred global responsibilities on our leaders. Since ours is not a republic of blood and soil, but of universal ideals, liberty and equality, justice, we pledge allegiances to those. Those ideals and their success beyond our own borders is our concern. He was an American patriot who loved and served and sacrificed for our country. But his patriotism was in its essence a kinship of ideals that embraced solidarity with all humanity. It mattered to him that the people of Uzbekistan or Myanmar were deprived of their rights. Americans can take that for granted. The people of those countries have the same inherent dignity that we possess, and he felt an affinity with them and their cause. For like them, he had once been deprived of his own right to liberty and justice. And so he identified with them, and they with him. He was, quote, in a league with them, united, unquote, as a friend once wrote. By suffering, endurance, and the knowledge that the most marvelous of human achievements is to not lose hope when experience has taught you there is no hope. At John's memorial service, his dear friend Joe Lieberman recalled visiting a Syrian refugee camp with John in southern Turkey. The poor souls confined there were angry, and it appeared to them that the world's indifference to their plight was simply gone. Just hours before, they'd furiously denounced and chased away a senior UN official. The government officials escorting the senators to the camp were worried they too would get a hostile reception and advised that they cancel the visit. Well, I know you can guess what John said. He wouldn't hear of it. As they approached the camp, they could hear the refugees were shouting something, which made the escort officers very nervous. But when they entered the camp and heard what was going on, they were greeted like heroes. They were shouting, "John McCain, John McCain." Those desperate people knew John was their champion, their brother, and he knew their deliverance from persecution was as much his responsibility as anyone else's. John knew how cruel the world could be. He knew people everywhere are corruptible, but he knew too that in the worst of circumstances, human beings were still capable of compassion, selflessness, and it gave him faith that the world could be made another, better place than it already was. He believed that the liberal world order that the United States had organized and led after World War II, based on an alliance of shared interests and ideals, had helped spread freedom and justice to the most hostile corners of the world. He knew the continued success of the international order is the best hope of mankind, and he knew that it was never more important for Americans to speak up and stand up for the universality of the West values and the alliance that protects and advances them than it is today. We face a growing competition from great power rivals who believe in the power of the state over the power of the individual. John knew, too, that there were growing numbers of Americans who doubt the transformative powers of our ideals and reject the responsibilities of world leadership. And he devoted his last months and the strength that was ebbing away from him to remind his fellow Americans that our exceptionalism is based in our idealism and our solidarity with mankind. We are part of the main, he often quoted. The bell tolls for us. That is his legacy. That is his charge to us, to stay loyal to the faith that has liberated more people from tyranny and poverty than any other time in our history. I hope to do so in his name. And I thank all of you for your faith, your commitment to the cause, and for your generous tribute to John's contributions in making the world a better place. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, please direct your attention to the screens and welcome Ms. Kate Davis.
I see trees of green and red roses too. I see them bloom colors of the rainbow, so pretty in the sky, are also on the faces of the people passing by. I see friends shaking hands, saying, how do you do? They're really saying, I love you. I hear babies cry, and I watch them grow. They learn much more than I'll ever know. And I think to myself, I think to myself, I think to myself, what a wonderful
Thank you very much. I'm Damon Wilson, Executive Vice President of the Atlantic Council. Thank you, Kate Davis, for your beautiful rendition of What a Wonderful World, one of Senator McCain's favorite songs. Thank you, Mrs. McCain, for being with us here tonight and for accepting the Senator's Award. He was a great friend of the Council. We will miss him dearly. I want to invite you all to enjoy your dinner, and we'll break and resume the program, the second half of our program, honoring President Macri and Prime Minister Solberg. Enjoy your meal. Thank you.